Hello, my name is Sam Feltham and welcome to Expert Interviews here on Smash the Fat. Now for you today, we've got something that's off the beaten track here on Expert Interviews. Usually it's more along the lines of nutrition and kind of exercise focus, but today we're going to be talking specifically about posture and movement. And we've got one of the most world-renowned experts on the subject, Esther Gokhale. And how are you doing, Esther?
Doing wonderfully on a sunny day here in California.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a sunny day here in London as well. It started off raining, but it's all sunny now, which is fantastic news because usually it is just raining here. Nothing compared to the Silicon Valley, and kind of. That's whereabouts you're based, and the New York Times Magazine, I believe, called you the guru of posture in Silicon Valley recently as well. So it's a real honour to have you on the show. Now, just so that people can kind of get a grip about kind of how I became aware of you, I actually heard you on a segment on NPR, which is National Public Radio there in the States. And kind of after doing a little bit of Googling, because what I heard was kind of, singing to my ears, basically. And then, doing more Googling, looking on YouTube, watched your lectures on the Ancestral Health Symposium, your TEDx talk, all of it absolutely fantastic advice and very kind of specific. So before we kind of get into exactly what you're talking about when it comes to primal posture and how to achieve pain-free living, how did you get into the position that you're in today?
The hard way, by having my own back problems that didn't find solutions in conventional approaches or alternative approaches. So like many people, I came at my specialty, my passions, the hard way. It was a choice of being crippled. This happened to me in my mid-20s. I had an L5-S1 disc herniation, very large, very, very painful. I couldn't sleep through the night, every 2 hours, waking up trying to get out of spasm. And so what was my alternative but to look further afield and find something that would let me lead my life well? So, and what's wonderful is that I chanced upon an approach that not only solved my own problems, but has now brought relief to huge numbers of people. And we're hoping to really make a dent on the statistics, the abysmal statistics on back pain in the modern West.
Yeah, and it really is abysmal. And it's kind of, all over the Western world. And people can start off by finding out more information about everything that you do if they go to gokhalemethod.com. That's GOKHALE method.com. And then they can look around there, which includes links to your book, which is a fantastic book that takes you through the 8 steps to a pain-free back, and people can get that via Amazon if they go to smashthefat.com/pain-free UK to the Amazon UK site, and if they want to go buy it from the Amazon US site, if they go to smashthefat.com/pain-free US, then that kind of gives a little bit of a kickback to the show and helps us support the show. With kind of your own pain and things, it looks like you did a massive amount of research into kind of traditional movement, I suppose.
Yeah, so what I did first was explore conventional approaches, then alternative approaches, so physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, and so on. And then when I did not get relief, and I did a surgery too, which, didn't, I was not very gung-ho to have that happen. I'd always thought of myself as being very athletic and very healthy. It was a shock to my system to be that desperate. But then when even the surgery failed, after a year, I had the same excruciating pain return. I was being offered another surgery. Then I had to cast my net a little wider And I found techniques, some of them well known, like Alexander technique and Feldenkrais, and also a French technique called Aplomb. And the techniques that made sense to me were the ones that looked to how I was using my body, rather than looking to someone to provide yet another Band-Aid approach to the problem. And it made sense to me from my upbringing in India as well. My Dutch mom would always be pointing out how amazing the villagers were and how the loads they could carry and the positions they could assume, and sweeping the house for hours on end and so on. So that had lodged in my consciousness somewhere, that these people who live close to the ground have certain kinds of body wisdom that are worth gleaning. And so the approaches that focused on healthy people, and especially healthy people in these non-industrial cultures, that made sense to me. And I pursued that route, and I pursued it in the medical literature through these other techniques that had also studied other cultures, and then through my own travels, videographing, photographing people in these cultures, talking to them. And this includes people who bend in the fields all day and don't have a back problem. You know, they're doing that day in and day out. They don't have the luxury of taking a day off or popping an Advil. You know, how do they earn their living and survive? And so this became an obsession, really. You know, as I found my own solution. And then realized that this was not just a little something at the margin, but really something that needs to be known by everyone, whether they're in pain or going to be in pain, because that's 85% of us. You know, the statistics are that bad. So it's either happened to you or it's about to happen.
Yeah, at some stage.
At some stage, and you want to be ahead of that curve, because it is miserable, as I can tell you from personal experience. And so now I have really a good life. I never needed the second back surgery that was suggested to me. It's been over 20 years. I've not had a back pain, backache, back twinge, nothing. And I have a confidence that I won't have to suffer again. I mean, you can never be completely sure of not having injuries and not having, but I'm not doing the systematically damaging things that I used to, which were like bending with a rounded back and sitting on my tail and so on. You know, this is what a lot of people are doing day in and day out. And it's no wonder that the discs degenerate, that the edges of the bones are chafing and causing calcium deposits. And, you know, so this is, and it's so common that we come to think of it as normal. And that's something I really want to buck. Like, you know, no. We can raise our bar. We can expect more from our systems than we are currently seeing.
It's exactly that. Kind of people feel like it's a process of aging. But kind of as you've kind of mentioned this in a lot of your lectures that they're available on YouTube, that, you know, people kind of go well into their kind of 70s, just, you know, moving well, being absolutely fine. And it all comes down to knowing how to move, because kind of, I suppose modern society has kind of taken us off on a bit of a tangent on how we should hold ourselves, how we should walk, how we should sit. And so kind of, where does it all start in terms of that back pain developing, and how do you overcome it?
Yeah, I'm just going to show a little image of one that I find really evocative. Brilliant. You know, here's this woman in my book. She is bending over 7 to 9 hours every day collecting water chestnuts. And I interviewed her. She thought it would be a good thing to sit in a chair all day. She would prefer that. I tried to convince her otherwise. No. But, you know, and they get a bit sore at the end of the day, the way you would if you'd played tennis all day, for example. You know, muscle soreness, but nothing pathological. No sciatic pain, no arthritic changes, and so on. So, you know, what are they doing? that is available to us, right? We are all the same species, and there's less variation across the entire human race than there is in a single band of chimps in the Congo. So I don't believe it's genetic. And, in my favor, I have taught thousands of people to move this way, to walk the way they do, to bend the way they do, to sit the way they do. And lo and behold, the pains and aches go away. The function increases. They feel better. They have more energy. People respond to them differently. And so this is now my pleasure to pass this on. And somewhere along the way, I realized there's only so many people I can touch with my hands. And so now most of my energy goes into training people, training teachers. And I pick my teachers carefully. These are people who are already used to working with people with their hands and with teaching and so on. And then they use my techniques in a very systematic and fashion. And we have teachers in the UK, in Bristol. They travel all over. We have all over Europe. We have teachers in every continent now, actually, teaching our course. 6 lessons. We don't ask for much. And those 6 lessons are life transforming.
And it really is, because all of this kind of back pain that people get kind of, I suppose, really starts in our younger years. If you watch a toddler kind of walking about, picking things up, they're moving, perfectly. Almost.
Yeah, well, they bumble around. It's not trivial to learn how to walk. You see them fall and so on in the beginning, and they waddle around. But there are principles in action that are really important, which include that their backs remain intact as a baseline. They don't round, they don't sway, and those are principles that we want to carry into adulthood. And when they move, they are propelling themselves forward. They use their glutes. They also have an instinct to use their foot muscles. Until the age of 20 months, all human beings have a reflex. If you tickle a kid underfoot, the foot grabs, and then ideally that little kid would be walking and toddling or waddling around on contoured surfaces, so that reflex would become part of their gait. But that tends not to happen. Unfortunately, we put pretty little shoes on our babies as they're learning to walk, and we deprive them of that feedback of contoured surfaces that would then transform the reflex of grabbing into part of gait. So, if you're older than 20 months old, which is all your listeners, then you have to learn this formally. The good news is it's never too late. And it's kind of fun, learning anti-aging things in your 50s and 60s and 30s and whatever, so you're kind of learning youthful practices that will indeed lend you some very nice to have characteristics of youth, like increased energy, more power, more balance, and so on.
Certainly. And kind of, I suppose, when you go into a place of work, one of the first things that you kind of do on a health and safety talk is how to pick up a box. And kind of one of the often things is, bend at the knees, squat, and then pick up and things. But I suppose kind of looking at all the primal posture things that you've investigated, it's more of a hip hinge. And I suppose it depends on the weight of the box, but it is more of a hip hinge. And
I call it hip hinging. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, bending with the knees is a very good measure, because what you absolutely don't want to do is curve your back to pick things up. And even slight curves will strongly load the discs. So hip hinging is something that we teach in lesson 4 of our 6-lesson course, because people first have to learn how to lengthen their spine. Then they learn to remodel their spine. Then they learn to strengthen in a very specific way that's very different from what goes under the name of core strength. And then they learn to move with their longer, better shaped spine, including in bending, in lifting, in walking, and so on. So you preserve that new length and shape, and you use your strength as needed, and then that works. But so bend with the knees is a good in-between measure, place to start. But as you learn to hip hinge, the way that woman was in, picking her water chestnut, your back muscles get stronger, your hamstrings get longer, your rhomboids get stronger. You are sparing your discs and your spinal nerves and so on. So it's actually a really healthy way to bend with lots of benefits to be had. But you have to do it very precisely, because even a small amount of rounding, which can happen really easily if you have not been trained well, can do damage. And so people come with all kinds of extra curves in their back, usually, when they first come to our courses. And so we have to kind of tease those unnatural shapes out of the system before we'll take them into hip hinging. But hip hinging has lots of benefits, and it spares your knees, because, if you have to bend with your knees for every weed in the garden and every kid's toy you have to pick up, that's hard on the knees. And you're missing out on all those wonderful benefits to be had from good hip hinging. So important measure, but not a first measure.
No, it's not the first place to start. I mean, as you said there, kind of, it's all about elongating the spine. And, traditionally we think of the spine as being an S shape, but you go more along the lines of it actually being more of a J. Yes.
So I describe a J shape that you find. I'm going to put my book up to so if you look at the kind of indigenous people I'm talking about, you see that their behinds are behind, and the rest of their spines are pretty straight. And you see the same thing in every Greek statue and every kid on the planet. And this is what I describe to be more truly natural. And in support of that, in my book, here's page 12, I know it by heart, you see a comparison where this S-shaped spine is from a more modern anatomy book, and the J shape, so I call it J, it's like a stylized J, modern J, like a hockey stick. And you see how the behind is out behind. And then the back is not that curvy. It's pretty elongated. And so you have old anatomy books in concurrence with what I'm teaching. You have every ancient culture as evidenced in art and sculpture from old. You have every kid, and you have these non-industrial populations all converging on the same shape, which you then have to stop and think, now, why would that be? Unless it's natural, why would they converge on some random contrived? So that's what we help people get to, And you're right, the first measure is about lengthening. We help them elongate their spines, and we don't want just a 5-minute stretch, hanging from an inversion table or so. These are good things, but they go only so far, which is not very far. How many minutes a day are you going to spare hanging on something upside down or right side up? And what we really want, like what I tell my students, is in step 1 from the first day, we're looking for something closer to 15 hours of stretch, and we don't want to ruin their lives in doing so. So there are 2 low-hanging fruits, which are the time spent sitting in a chair, which is substantial for most people, commuting in a car, maybe watching TV, working at a desk most often, and also the time spent lying down. And if you can arrange your spine to be in gentle traction while you're doing those 2 things, you're covered for up to 16 hours a day, potentially. Yeah. So that's something we teach as in our lesson 1, and in our open free workshops, online, in person. You have a whole bunch of them in the UK as well. Our teachers are busy, getting the word out to the public. And so people can go to our website, sign up for those, and get hands-on instruction or instruction like this, where they can ask questions. I can even see what they're doing and give them feedback. And And these are simple techniques, don't even need anything. You can do this with the towel behind to kind of hook your back to so that you're partially hanging. Or we have an implement, stretch sit cushion, that makes it very easy, and it hangs like a necklace from the headrest of the car, or it can just be positioned behind. And then we teach this technique. I'll just go through it really quickly.
Please.
Okay, so bottom back, and we teach people to come away, curve forward with their rib cage, lengthen their spine, which is not the same as lengthening your front. This is a common mistake. People kind of jut out their rib cage and shorten their backs, in fact. So all this sit up straight, stand up straight actually shortens and squinches the back, counterproductive. So here we teach them to curve forward, remain curved forward, further elongate their spine by using their arms, hook to whatever it is that you have behind you. And now you've got a longer spine from the point of attachment down. And then we teach them a little shoulder roll, which is a very effective way to get the shoulders to be home again, without having to pull back or remember, which is not very practical and also not very healthy. So it's about rolling the shoulders back. You're making use of the craggy architecture that is your shoulder joint, and you're sort of ratcheting the soft tissue back. And lo and behold, the shoulder tissue will just remain there. And you just...
And hold you up.
Yeah, or at least not pull you forward. Because sometimes, arms are heavy. And if you're sitting like that, then it's going to round you forward. So by ratcheting the soft tissue back, it no longer drags you forward. Now, in addition, if you're also lengthening your spine as you sit, now you're doing good for your back instead of harm as you sit. At least in the musculoskeletal sense.
Yeah, and then for those typing, do they have their elbows in their side?
Yes. So once
they're not outright.
Right. What you don't want to do is send your shoulders forward as you're doing either driving or typing or anything sustained. So you want to establish a natural home for your shoulders, and now that will determine where your keyboard should be, which is close in compared to what people are used to. And it feels a little strange in the beginning. People feel like they have little dinosaur arms, but it works. And, every one of our ancestors carried their shoulders back there, got all their work done. And if you need to reach forward, it's through hip hinging that you reach things, in your everyday life. So the shoulders actually remain back, except very occasionally, something stuck in the corner of the lower shelf of the fridge. But otherwise, you actually move your body to reach your tasks instead of moving your shoulder blade to reach your tasks. So rolling back, that's home. Arms can do whatever they need to do, but the shoulders stay home for the most part.
Yeah, kind of like from head to hip, it kind of stays still. And like the arms kind of move
as a baseline. And you
can obviously do that hip hinge if you need to kind of lean forward. But I suppose moving it as one, is the way to describe it. Moving as
one piece. And so now some extra muscles need to kick in, need to start working. So this is the natural time for the rhomboids to work. When you're upright, you don't want the rhomboids kind of pulling you back and getting inflamed at their attachment on the spine. So there are a lot of people who will come to see us who have soreness in the upper back because they've been slumping, both with their head and their shoulders forward, or they've been pulling back, which pulls on exactly the same attachment point. Or doing a combination. They go back and forth, kind of pulling back, because their mom said sit up straight, and now they're tired and they slump forward, and it's all pulling on the same place. So you want to navigate around that, those two poles of bad posture. You don't want to sit up straight and be pulling unnaturally, the extremes. So when you do shoulder roll, it's neither pulling from slumping nor pulling from contracting, from holding back. When you hinge forward, now those muscles work. That's about the right amount for them to work. You're busy doing this or that, they get their workout. Those muscles get their workout, your back muscles get their workout, the long back muscles, all good. And then when you come up, they get a break. So it gives opportunity, that's the natural opportunity for those muscles to work.
Fantastic. Now, sitting, obviously, we're there almost 10 hours a day at work, maybe 8 to 10 hours, and then you head home, sitting on the sofa, and kind of you can do the same things there, but then we're going to be asleep for about 8 hours, and that's another place that people get a lot of lower back pain. So what's kind of your advice when it comes to sleeping position?
People tend to look to implements to help them. Like, what kind of bed do I need? What kind of pillow do I need? What kind of implements do I need? And what I always tell them, especially in sleeping, in sitting, yes. I showed the stretch sit cushion, special implements are good. I've even created a chair. You can see our chair has nubs in the back and it has other features. So for a chair, it's worth having something special. But when you're sleeping, you really don't need anything special. It's what you do in your bed that's key. And the most important thing is to have length. Because once you have length, then if the mattress is a little bit soft or it's a little bit hard, like the floor, and that tends to push the spine a little bit out of alignment, it's no big deal. You got good length, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. Nothing's hurting, nothing's being threatened. There isn't a message going to the brain, hey, do something, toss, turn, clench, protect us, please. Now, it's well tolerated. You have good length, little deviation this way, that way, no big deal. Little twist, no big deal. So length is the most important thing to have while you sleep. So that you can
how do you achieve that length?
So it's somewhat similar to what I did in stretch sitting. And we have videos on our website teaching people how to stretch lie on the back. Stretch lying on the side is more complicated. And we refer people to our courses for that. So you can get, even in courses, we have to really be there and go back and forth and coach people on how to not stick their butt out and tense up their backs. But when you're lying on your back, it's similar to this stretch sitting technique in that you are creating piecewise length. So you lie on your back, you prop yourself up onto your elbows, you dig your elbows into the bed and down towards your feet, and you lay piece by piece of your back on the bed so that in the end, you are a little longer than if you just plonked yourself down. See, because if you have tightness and you have this exaggerated S-shaped curve in your back and you just lay yourself down, then in a way, the bed is kind of preserving that unnatural S-shaped curve, and that doesn't serve you well. Everything remains squished. So when you first lay yourself down is where the opportunity is to tease some extra natural length back into your spine. And now, in effect, you're using your bed as a traction unit. And you wake up in the morning a little taller, refreshed, and reset.
That's kind of what sleeping's for, really, isn't it? It's for resetting. I suppose if you don't get yourself in the right position for the night ahead, then you're going to kind of wake up groggy, aching, and then obviously that has a massive effect on the rest of the day. It'll even kind of knock on to you slumping, and everything, absolutely everything. So it's important to kind of get that right.
So we really like it when we get feedback from our students that, I'm very surprised. I remained in this stretch lying position on my back way longer than I was expecting. So every week I will hear from one or more of our students that they woke up in the same position they went to sleep in, and they're shocked because they've never been able to lie on their back comfortably. So that's a nice milestone that we regularly achieve with our students. Very important. And then you have layers of benefits happening, it's like it's comfortable in the moment, but you're also resetting the resting length for the other positions they're going to assume. They're not beginning with the handicap of being squished in their discs, impinged in their nerves, edgewise compressed at the bones and so on. But then that results over the long term in degenerated discs and osteoarthritis, in back pain, which we've come to accept as normal. And so the big invitation is, no, don't set the bar so low. We are better designed than we have given ourselves credit for. Like, we're really we've been upright for 5.5 million years. It is well figured out. And
we just got to work out how to move again.
Yeah, we just have to learn to get out of our own way. And we have to shed this modern cultural baggage that we've acquired, because a lot of the directions in modern times are not only unhelpful, but actually counterproductive. So we're told, tuck the pelvis. We're told, sit up straight, stand up straight, chin up, chest out. All the opposite of what you want to do. We're told S-shaped spine. No. We're told core strength, which includes tucking the pelvis and tightening everything you've got. No. That'll do some good and some damage. No need for the damage part. We can do it in a way that's all good. We're told sit-ups and crunches. Terrible exercise. Crunches, I think, are very well named. You crunch your discs and you crunch your nerves. It's like not good. So we're here to offer another paradigm to people who are suffering or will suffer in future, and the people who are not hurting and are well aligned, we want them to understand what it is they're doing well, so they have a very robust hold on it and aren't subject to some new trendy ideas, either in instruction or in furniture. We're being instructed all the time by the shape of our furniture, and that starts early in life with those horribly designed car seats. And it continues into ergonomic furniture that is shaped to support the so-called natural S-shaped spine, and so on. So, we've got a lot of cultural baggage to shed.
And it all starts off with the Gokhale Method, which you can obviously get in the book as a starting point. It's always good to kind of have that book and kind of something to refer to if things come up, which people can get on Amazon at smashthefat.com/painfree UK. And I believe, Esther, you've got it right there if you want to hold it up for us.
I will. I'll show you an example of the kind of step-by-step instructions that we help people with, so that they can really learn in their body at least some of the things. Some of the things are hard, and it helps to have visual learning. So we have a very nice DVD that will also help with instruction, but far and away the best way to learn is through a teacher, through hands-on coaching. And we don't ask for the moon. We're asking, people start off with one session where they can really see whether this applies to them or not, or people can just go directly into the 6-lesson course. And it's tiny groups of maximum 8 people, or they can do it one-on-one, privately, if their schedules are difficult or they prefer that format. So important that our mission is to get the equivalent of that course to everybody in the modern world, so that we're done with this back pain epidemic and it becomes something rare and in a museum.
Excellent. Yeah. We'll look back at it in history and it's like, well, how did we get in that position? It's like a lot of the stuff that's kind of happening at the moment that we realize kind of the past 50 years of health and fitness advice, maybe we went off the track a little bit there. And
a little bit, yes.
Take a step back and say, right, let's just kind of reset this whole thing, because we almost got it completely wrong. But unfortunately, we can't do that. But
Yeah, well, it's exciting that there's
Yeah, at the
such
same time.
significant upside that remains to happen. So all those people who have suffered, yeah, we wish we had never had to go through all that suffering. I mean, I suffered a lot and had my whole world turned upside down. But, now it's a whole new vantage point and can help other people. And I'm so glad it happened, really.
Yeah, it's fantastic in a way, isn't it? And as I said in the beginning, make sure that you go to Esther's website. That's the Gokhale Method.com. That's Gokhale Method.com. And I assume there as well, Esther, that you can find your local instructor.
Yes, absolutely. You can find local instruction. You can sign up for our free online workshops. You can get all kinds of free downloads and sign up for our monthly newsletter, which is good, where we offer tips and tricks to improve posture. So looking forward to crossing paths with all of the readership here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't think kind of posture gets enough limelight. Maybe just because I don't know. Maybe just because I know it certainly is. Because I suppose people are discovering that they need to really focus on it. It's a real kind of core piece of who you are and yourself and your health. It's kind of having all of the internal organs in the right place, as well as avoiding aches and pains. And just kind of having yourself in the right position is kind of a good foundation for good health.
Thank you for realizing that and sharing this with your viewership.
It's not a problem, Esther. It's my pleasure. And thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to actually speak to us. I know that you're very busy and very well sought out for. So thank you so much. And that just leaves us one more thing to do that we do on every single show. And that's to have you shout, smash it out to the camera on the count of 3. So on the count of 3, shouting, smash it out to the camera. 1, 2, 3.
Smash it out.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much, Esther. Everybody go check out Esther's website, company, books, social media, everything that they've got on there at the GoKhalemethod.com. That's GOKHALE method.com. And then you can find everything from there. And was there anywhere else that you wanted to point people to, Esther?
That sounds wonderful.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well, thanks again so much, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Esther.